Welcome to Service Pending Operator Weekly Call. Today is February 24th, 2022. So we have few agenda, a couple of one announcement and another discussion topic. If anybody else want to add any topic to for discussion, please do. Um, the announcement, I thought it. Andy, you want to talk about that, right?
Yes. Um, very briefly, um, we've been going through the version 1.0.1 release. Um, it is currently live on Operator Hub. We are still in the process of releasing it on GitHub and downstream with for use within OpenShift, but it is currently live here on Operator Hub.
Okay, and it's going to be here soon, right? Okay, it's not yet. And I forgot the reason why we were doing this as after that, Operate Hub IO. I remember Predrag mentioned, but I forgot. There was some reason
I,
why doing this as a post step.
my understanding is that this was like the last thing we do as a part of the release process. Um, but
Okay.
I could be wrong. This is just my understanding of how the process works.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we can discuss some other time because having something published in a website like this, but there is no corresponding release in GitHub, seems to be a bit odd to me anyway. Uh, yeah, we can discuss some other time on this topic. And maybe there are some technical reason why that need to happen that way. We'll see. Okay, so it's good that we have a bug fix release and one more concern. I think because it doesn't show the details that release notes also in this page, right? So unless we have that release in this page, GitHub page, we cannot see those details. So that's only difficulty. Yeah. I hope Operator will
Uh,
solve.
the, we would have a release page on GitHub as soon as we are done with the downstream release.
Okay, yeah, that's also another
Because
thing that we need to
to be
discuss.
able to create a release in GitHub in upstream, you need to tag it, and but once you tag it, it's very hard to untag it. So we need to wait with that at the very end when we are absolutely sure that the release uh, happened correctly and everything is fine, downstream
And
and
the
upstream, right?
and
Yeah, yeah,
So
the test has passed, right? So
yes,
all
yes. So
yeah,
the tagging it with the version and creating a release page on GitHub is the last thing, and
yeah.
that concludes it.
yeah. That
One thing,
makes only thing is that makes a very tight coupling between our upstream and downstream, which, in my opinion, we should try to avoid. Yeah, let's see. How,
one thing that the Helm group does is they tag release candidates, not final releases. So maybe that's one way to do it. Is like you tag it, but it's an intermediate tag, right? It might not be the final tag. So I don't know. We could discuss, like you said. That's I think release details. At the end, it's gonna
yeah,
be there for sure. This is transitionary, right? So
right. Yeah. So let's yeah we can see how we can avoid that kind of dependency between upstream and downstream. Well, so let's move on to the discussion. Fanny, we can start this topic.
Yeah.
You want to share your screen, by the way? Do you want to share and explain or
Yeah. I'll try my screen. I hope screen is visible now.
not? Right.
All right. 1 second.
Not yet.
Yeah, I think. All right. I was going through our out of the box support we give for the other operators or the services or uh, anything. In that, when we are defining the RBACs for that. We are not defining the watch verb over there, but the spec is specifically telling that if it is a provision service, you, we must be giving this watch access. Now, do you think that is a required entity, or why we are not using it? That is something like I wanted to know. If not, then why, and should we use it or not? Like,
Just want to clarify things. I think that the spec says that it should, not that it must.
No, I think
Am I
it says
correct?
must. I think it
It's a
says
must.
must,
Okay,
but
okay.
for provision services. I don't think we
Yes.
have a provision service in this case, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, right. You're right. It's not a provision
Okay.
service. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's okay because it's not a provision service.
I mean, if that's okay, like other than any provision services, if we don't give any of this, it must be okay, right? Not any,
Right,
but like,
because it's not a provision service. We're not in that sense. It's an extension of the spec. So we cover provision services already, right? So in this case, we're doing an extension to go above and beyond and support services out of the box using annotations, which is
yeah,
then translated into secrets, and then we bind to the secrets, right? So that, but there's no provision service in this path, I think. So I think, but you
Yeah, that
already
is correct
confirmed that. Okay,
understanding.
all right,
Yeah,
okay.
that is the reason. But there is some other practical reason why we didn't do. If I remember correctly, we don't do watch and do any reconciliation based on the any event triggered through watching, right? So that was earlier we had that feature, but for various, I think mainly performance reasons and all, we stopped watching most
the
of these
resources
resources. Yeah, so that was the reason I believe we removed that watch.
from
Uh,
all the.
yeah, we are no more watching any of these backing services. But if
Then
at
I
all we
think.
are, yeah, please go forward.
Yeah, sorry. I thought you were done. I was just gonna say that we originally watched for everything, and that caused problems, performance problems. So we stopped doing that. But there is definitely, I believe there is a issue. There is a like feature request or issue in GitHub, maybe in our downstream Jira, to watch for the resources, to add the watch for the resources that participate in the binding, just sort of limited watches, because it makes sense. It's just not done yet, right? But I believe I saw it in issues.
Yeah,
So the idea is definitely not brand new.
yeah. That mean that story needs still more work or discussion, I guess. So, but meanwhile, I don't see any problem for by the way, for one of the operators that I sent the PR, that was a MongoDB operator. I actually created this cluster role with these three verbs: get, list,
but that
watch.
was something we provided. They are going to watch our SBO, right? It is not something like we are giving the permission for them to watch. It is not
No, no,
something
no.
we are watching.
It is something that we need to. It is permission required for SBU actually. See, how this works is, see, look at the label there. That service spelling IO controller true. Uh, the label, yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Right.
label is the one that we are using. It's a feature provided by Kubernetes. It's called aggregation rule for cluster roles.
Per
So basically,
selector.
yeah.
Okay.
So basically, as soon as it recognizes this label, it becomes part of another role, which is there already, which is created by SBO, by the way. And that role is the one that is used by our operator while running the operator inside the container,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that's how we are getting all these permissions to get, list, whatever.
So
So,
this is just providing access to the operator. So SBO now has access to for
hmm,
that specific, in this case, for that
Operator.
specific persistent service, and then to be able to watch it, right? Because we need to just see how it changes, right? But in this other case, I don't think. Yeah, okay. I think we have a good understanding.
Yeah, then I mean, it should be fine if we did not give it for the other these things. I
Out
mean,
of the
other
box, yeah.
services. Yeah,
Yeah,
out of the
think
box.
because
It was
that
so.
only
part
for
is not.
MongoDB is done. Yeah.
Yeah, MongoDB it is done. I think there is nothing wrong also in my opinion, because even though right now we are not watching, but let's say if somebody else is creating another implementation, because that area is not well defined. Whether do we need to like this
Watch
in the
it
case of
or not.
provision service, it is very clearly defined here. The rollback, RBAC, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
spec, if you go, I actually created an issue. Okay, there is some power problem at my end. Sorry. So I created an issue to track this kind of. Can you go to issues?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you can see something from my Byju. Scroll down. Secret generation strategies extension issues. It's like a,
Yeah.
epic thing actually. I created
Mm-hmm.
aggregated all these issues. So scroll down. There are
Yeah.
multiple things that we need to address here. So look at this RBAC something. Do you see scroll down?
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So consideration for role-based access control are not documented, or maybe not documented, it's not
I
defined.
mean, it's not clear or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
The
Like
secret
that.
generation extension assume OLM descriptors, CRD annotations, and custom resource annotations are okay. Okay, I can't read this. Can you zoom in or?
Uh, I think let me read it out.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the secret generation extension assumes the OLM descriptors, CRD annotations, and custom resource annotations are in the same namespace. Sometimes these resources may not be in the same namespace, and sometimes not in the same Kubernetes cluster. That is an external service, if it is there. An RBAC rule to access these resources in is cumbersome in many organizations. A similar problem exists in a typical provision service where it is limited to that particular custom resource. A direct secret reference would be more appropriate in these scenarios.
Of course.
Okay, I think it is some related topic only, but I think even RBAC itself is not at all mentioned in the extension. That is one of the, uh,
Issues, right?
yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Who
All right.
created this issue?
Baiju?
I created this long back, I guess.
Oh, okay.
All right. I think this answers my question. Then, yeah. And
Yeah, for now, let it be like this. For we don't need to take any action, but we can. Uh, but my opinion again, gradually I assume that we are going to use more provision service at some point of time. So this extensions thing is hopefully not going to be used widely. If so, if we really see that there is more adoption or uh, happening for the extension, I think we should fix all this kind of issues, and we should ensure that annotations are and that part is well defined. That's tech.
But the RBAC will come with the provision service, right? So
Right,
whoever
right,
the
yeah,
service provider will need to come up with that RBAC, and then it's just because it's a label driven, then we'll be able to get the access, right?
yeah, yeah. But we need to. It is not defined. This kind of RBAC rules in this spec itself. Okay. In our
Yeah.
okay, can you share again, Fanny, or maybe I can share that and show. One second. Right now, the extension is. Let me know if my screen is visible. Go to the spec, and this is the extension, and there is only one extension right now. That is the secret generation extension, and we calling it as currently in a draft state. It is our alpha state or something, because this
Mhm.
part is this is the old thing. And if you look here, you don't see even any uh, must, should, any of those things, right? It's just
Right.
loosely defined.
Yeah.
So this is the thing, and this is we are written like this status. This document is in pre-release, so that's the current state of this thing. So if we need to continue pushing for this annotations-based approach more, I think we need to do more cleanup and address other issues. And also
I
one
mean,
observation,
I mean,
noticing some part of this thing is not at all being used like this, at least in practice. These OLM descriptors, when we have annotations, I could see that part is more widely used, whereas OLM descriptors is there, but mostly unused.
yeah. So shouldn't we favor provision service as opposed
Yeah,
to this annotation way to do? I mean, if we're evangelizing with the service providers and saying, hey guys, you will benefit from supporting service binding. Look at all these workloads that could be bound to you wonderfully. This is what we recommend you do. We will recommend the provision service path, right?
Yes. So,
Okay. I mean, the annotations is there for cases where, let's say, there's already a service provider that doesn't maybe care too much about service binding, and there's a third party that wants to enable service binding because it's good for their organization. That gives them the opportunity to contribute quickly without changing the CRD too much.
Yes.
So okay.
Okay. So I think we can keep the status quo like that. That's good. Okay. Anybody added? Penny, do you want to add anything else, or have you done?
No, I think I am done for this.
Anybody else has any thoughts or comments on this? Okay, then good. I don't see any other agenda. If anybody else want to speak about anything else, we have 10 more minutes. Otherwise, we can wind up.
Audio. Is that something that well, two things. The CLI managed Kafka is going to, do we know when that's going away?
No, CLI is not going away, and I think I recently understood that they cannot deprecate the whole command of binding.
I see. Nice.
Because they have already given it for demos and everything, right? So they cannot directly deprecate it. But I think there are too many caveats for them to solve it. So like whatever it is there, I mean, it will be there, but
it's gonna stay there for a while. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, we have time then to think about the strategy. Good.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question to Kate while you are here. I remember that you are working on that Strimsy operator, and I remember that proposal got accepted and all. But what happened to the implementation of that support?
What happened to the
provision service for Strimsy operator? Is that?
Yeah, so it's in progress. So I've been temporarily working on something else for Managed Kafka at the moment, but I am progressing it. So currently there's a new operator, which is the Kafka Access operator, which you can deploy. So it's currently in the state where the proposal has been accepted, and I have the first sort of pieces in place. So you can run it locally. It doesn't have any deployment files yet to deploy into Kubernetes, but you can run it locally, and you can run it against a Strimsy Kafka with SASL, and it will give you the username and password. Assuming I was going to say that's the last PR I raised. I think that one got merged yesterday, but I haven't double checked. But that's the point that I got to. So it's progressing.
Good. So this is going to be separate operator, this connector operator, right? Distinct from, and it's going to be distributed separately also. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, from a user perspective, what you'll do is you'll have your Strimsy running as normal with your Kafka or whatever, and then wherever you want to put your applications, you'll run the Kafka Access operator and basically create a Kafka Access that says, I want to give access to this particular cluster, and it will include, for example, the listener and the user that you want to use. And then that's the item that you'll bind to using service binding.
Nice. So it'll be like a proxy type of thing.
Yeah, it's because the Kafka that Strimsy provides obviously has multiple different endpoints that you could be connecting to, multiple different users that you could be using. So we couldn't find a straightforward way to allow someone to bind directly to the Kafka without having to use things like the annotations that aren't supported in the main spec. So in order to support the
main spec,
the main spec, we felt this was the right approach. And it also means that it enables users who, even if they don't want to use service binding, want a mechanism where they can better expose the Bootstrap server and things like that to applications in the actual namespace that the application is running rather than in the namespace that their Kafka is running.
Okay. And okay, managed Kafka is running a completely different cluster. It's not even related to the cluster where this operator will be running, right?
Yeah, so I've been chatting to the managed Kafka team to understand how we can align with them in terms of the way that the applications get the data. Because they've gone for a slightly different approach. It's complicated by the way they expose users and things is obviously quite different to, it's not using the Kafka user mechanism that Strimzi provides, they're using their own mechanism.
Yep.
But yeah, we're having ongoing chats to see if we can get to a point where the aim will be that you can run one application and it's bound to, say, managed Kafka, and then you can easily swap over to a non-managed Kafka and you wouldn't have to change your application.
Absolutely, because of the abstraction in between.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
can we do, for example, public cloud Kafka? At that point, is that something that would be an abstraction layer we can use for public services, for
Do you
public cloud
mean-
services like AWS, Azure?
That's an interesting question. I think so Kafka Access is designed to have intimate knowledge of how Strimzi works in terms of collecting the credentials.
Okay.
So the actual Kafka Access operator doesn't, but there is potential, I think, for us to see, could we have a kind of a more widely defined way that
like
this
a service
is how
endpoint, like a
applications
service endpoint type of thing. It's like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter where the service is running, but I'm defining the endpoint for you.
yeah,
right. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's progressing at the moment. As I say, I've been temporarily taken off to do something else, but I'm kind of progressing it in the background. I think the last PR that I'd raised got merged yesterday, so hopefully I'll be able to make some more progress on it soon.
Can you share the project with us? Thank you.
You want me to put it in the
Message is
notes?
fine. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say I'll put it in the box.
Oh, that's even
notes,
better. That's persistent. Yeah, let's put it there.
I wrote this DBAS operator also doing something similar, right? Basically, all these services are in the cloud, like Mongo, PostgreSQL, etc. And now they have an operator which is running in your local cluster, and that is where we are getting this SBO integration. And so I think the connector or whatever that operator, it has some similarity actually.
Yeah, so that's the type of abstractions we're gonna need, because I think we've been focusing a lot on existing operators running on the same cluster where SBO is running, and that's probably not the best use of service binding. The best use of service binding is a way to, yes, do it locally, but if you do it remotely, it looks the same, right? And that is gonna help with the whole GitOps, value proposition and all that, right? So
yeah, the hope is that we can make it really easy for people to use both. But yeah, there's just been some catching up that Strimzi needs to do to get to the point where we have something. But we've been chatting with them to kind of understand, and it might be that eventually we can use the Kafka Access operator as part of managed Kafka. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time to work out exactly how it fits in.
No.
But
as long as we're moving in that strategic direction, I think we're good. So, all right.
Okay. Thanks for the update. So if no other topic, we can wind up the call. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
cheers.
Take care.
Thank you.